So today I'm going to teach you how to paint Welcome Home. So this is a painting I painted at all of my workshops throughout July, and it's one of my favorites by far because it has so many different techniques. We look at shadows, we look at salt and all kinds of different things. So I'm going to teach you how to paint this one. And all of these that I painted at retirement villages throughout July will also be up for sale Australia wide on my website very soon. Um, which is just to raise funds so that I can continue doing what I love, and that is to teach watercolor in retirement villages. Now, you don't have to be retired to learn from my tutorials. Um, so for today's ones, I'm going to use professional paints because today I'm going to spend some more time onto it and see if we can elevate it a bit. Um, so I'm going to use a block of paper. So I'm going to use the Baohong. Um, this is the rough cold press paper. So it can take a lot of water and it's got quite a bit of texture. Okay, so I'm going to use this one because I want to see if we can add some more texture and more of a vintage feel to it. And then I'm going to use my professional paints. Now, I will let you know in the description below which colors I used, but I also want you obviously to have a play and just use the colors that you've got. So use any colors, or any pinks, any blues, whatever you want. That's the beauty of this painting. It's really there to make it uniquely your own. So I'll take you through it step by step. It's a lot of fun to paint this one. I really had a lot of fun throughout July painting this one. But it's also one of those that I struggled with the most because it really took me a long time to prepare for this, how to teach it, because I really wanted the one thing to dry before we move on to the next. So that's how I'm going to take you through it today as well. And I hope you have fun. This is a really, really fun painting to do, and we want it to be abstract. We don't want it to be perfect. So we're also not going to use a ruler or anything today. We are going to freehand it. We're going to be brave, and you are going to have so much fun. So enjoy. I'm going to move to this top camera and let's have some fun. Okay, friends, now to start with, um, we are going to sketch out our image. Okay, now if you have a look at this example that I've got over here. So we're first going to draw the outline of our door frame, and then we are going to do the door. Okay, I'm just drawing a rectangle in the middle of my page. Okay, okay, I'm not going to give you any measurements for this because I want you to be brave and I want you not to use a ruler and just to draw freehand. Okay, now we're going in about a centimeter on all sides. Okay. So it's in the middle of my page. There's space at the bottom, space at the top. Okay, now I am going in and doing a step. So my first step is slightly bigger on either side than my door frame. And then my second step is a bit bigger still. Okay. So there's some space on either side, because if you look at steps from the front, your bottom one will be bigger than your small one. Okay. And then I draw just a bottom here for my steps. Okay. Now we're going to do some pots. You can do your pots in any shape or size that you want. Nice big pots, small pots, whatever you feel like. I'm just doing these slightly rounded, nice and big pots. Okay. And then more or less on the same height the other side. I'm going to do the same, another pot. Okay, here we go. Okay, on my right hand side, I am just drawing a tree branch that goes up, and then over here, more or less in the same as high as the door, I'm going to draw just a rectangle where I'm going to put a number on. Okay, on the left side is my Bougainvillea coming out. Okay, and now I'm going to draw in my door. So you can do any kind of door that you want. Let me show you some examples. So here I've got some examples. Just pause it if you want to have a look in between at which kind of door you like. So this one has got 2 panels and one at the bottom. Okay. I think I'm gonna do maybe one like this today, more of a vintage look. You can do something like this. Okay. Here's another type of door. Okay, one more like this. Okay, and a nice red door. And then I have these 2 examples also. Okay. Actually, I might think I'll do one like that first one. So that very first one had a big one at the bottom. Okay. And then I'll use that line to come up on either side and in, just do like that. Okay, and a doorknob over here. Okay, so sketch is done. You can, with a kneaded eraser, just lighten your image a tiny bit if you want, but it won't really come out in your picture because we are doing a lot of layers today and we're building lots of color. Okay. Right. So for my first step, I'm mainly going to use 3 brushes throughout this whole painting. So a nice big flat brush, a round brush for some details. I might even do one of my thinner round brushes, maybe for some details. And then just a flat brush or an angular brush that you'll use as well. So my first step is going to be shadows. Now let's imagine my sun is coming from this side, okay, from the left. So everything on the right hand side is going to have a shadow. The first step is, though, we want to create very soft shadows. So normally with watercolor, we don't do our shadows in blue. Normally with acrylic painting, you'll do shadows in blue, but normally in watercolor, we'll choose a more pigmented color or a bit of a darker color. For example, if you're doing something in red, you might choose maroon as your shadow. But because I want this vintage look, that's why we're going for soft blue shadows, and then later on we'll go again and add some shadows again. Okay, So let's start by painting everything just with water. So everything except the stuff that you have drawn. So that means I'm going to paint all around my pots. Okay. Around the door. Around the number plate that's here. Okay. Again, around my pots. Now, if it's making puddles, you can just lighten those with paper cloth. Paper towel, or with a microfiber cloth. This paper is it can take a lot of water because it's a rough paper. So I can add lots and lots of water to it. Okay. Now I want to have a really dark blue mixture, okay? Something like Payne's Gray or deep blue, deep dark blue, a really, really dark blue color. And I'm actually going to use my Daniel Smith Moonglow just because everyone says that's such a good shadow color. So it's more purplish color. But you can use a nice Payne's Gray, will be awesome, or any dark blue that you've got. Okay, so I hope this works. I'm going for Moonglow, just a very light mixture of it. If you put it down and it's too dark, add water. Okay, I want a really soft color, and it is going to bleed everywhere. That's what we want. Okay, so next to each pot I'm putting a shadow. Next to my stairs I'm putting a shadow. Next to my door frame I'm putting a shadow, all with that big brush. Okay, underneath the number plate, on the side of, there's a tree going to be here, so I'm putting in its shadow. The tree branch. On this side, my Bougainvillea branch, I'm following that up. And then while you have the blue, or your shadow color, you put some on the bottom of your steps, so each step is darker at the bottom. Okay. For my door, I'm also putting in some shadows. Okay, this is my nice big brush. It's going to have a shadow here. We are still going to layer over this, so if your shadows aren't perfect, that's okay. Okay, do one up here. And then I'm also putting in my shadows while I have this. I'm putting in my shadows for my Bougainvillea, so just here on the side, making it a bit more punchy. And I'm dabbing my brush because these are my leaves giving a shadow over here. So I'm just dabbing it all across my page. Okay. Now, while your page is still wet, you want to quickly get together your color for your Bougainvillea. So a nice opera pink or a color opera rose will work. Nice vibrant pink. So I've got my Daniel Smith opera pink over here, And then I'm also going to use some of the magenta. So first I'm mixing a bit of the pink with a bit of the magenta. So I'm first putting that down and I'm dabbing it on just like before. Going a bit over the blue shadow. Okay, and you can go all the way to the top of your page. You can come down the side here a little bit. I'm putting some of that pink directly in to have lots of pigment in it. And then I'm just going to add some of the magenta also directly from here, just to have some darker areas. Adding a bit more water. And just dabbing my brush. Maybe a bit more pink up here. Letting it bleed, letting it run. Okay, now while it's still wet, you want to do salt. And as I say to my students, imagine that you are making a roast. Okay, so we are taking a pinch of salt and we are making a roast. In some areas you can put a bit more, some areas you can put some less. But you want it more or less evenly distributed all over. You can put some on your blue. Okay. And now we are leaving that to dry. The last thing that I'm going to do here is just add some green for my leaves. And I'm going to use the, I think it's the Undersea green. I think that's what I have here. And I'm just underneath the pink, but on top of the blue, just dabbing in some. I want it to run down, not into my pink. So just here and there, I'm dabbing on some of this blue. Oh, sorry, some of this green. Putting some here on the side as well. Maybe some on this side. Oh, this paper is just so lovely. Okay. I think that's enough. Now I'm just going to let this dry for a second or two before I move on to the next step. Just dabbing off where I want some lighter areas again. Okay. So let's leave this just for a bit to dry. It doesn't have to completely dry, but you do want the edges to be a bit dry because we are going to move on to the next steps and we don't want it all to bleed into each other. Okay, now I'm going to mix a nice soft brown color. So I'm going to use the Sennelier Warm Sepia. Okay. And I'm just mixing I had some orange still here um in my palette over here, and I'm just using some of the orange that was left, and then adding some of this brown warm sepia color. And you just want a really soft brown. If you start painting and it's too dark, add some more water. Okay, that should be fine. Okay. I want some of that texture of the paper to come out here at the bottom, so I'm not going to paint too much. Now I'm painting everything except the door, okay? So I'm painting my steps, painting my door frame, and just be careful close to your flowers if they are still wet. Okay. Not painting the number plate. Okay. And I'm still just using that really large brush. Yeah, close to the flowers, I'm just flattening my brush a little bit and then moving it in. I don't want like a exact line over here. It is still flowers, and you don't want to um, make it look too unnatural. We are going more for like an abstract feel, so I'm just doing a bit of brown here on the side as well. You can add some more if you want over there on the top. Okay, so now, oh, I need to add some here. My wool going up, framing my flowers a little bit. Okay. And now, once again, I'm going to let this dry completely before going on to the next step. So you can use a hair dryer, but just be careful not to blow away all your salt that you've got over there. Okay, so our next step is our door, and this is where I'm going to use my smaller brush. Okay, what color? Decide what color you want to do your door. Going to do the inside panels first, let it dry, and then I'll do the outside panels. Now, your inside panels, you want to do a bit darker color than your outer ones. I'm wondering, maybe I'll give these watercolors a go. I'll do these two, work with them. And then I'll also add some, I want to add just some brown into it so that it has a bit more of a vintage look. So let's use this color over here. Now this is watercolor paint. It's Daniel Smith's watercolor paint, but it's just on a stick, a very convenient stick. So I'm starting first with where my shadow color is, okay, or where I've put down a shadow, and then I'm going to take my brush, wet my brush, and then I'm just pulling this color out. So if you don't have these sticks, obviously you can just use normal paint. Put down a lot of pigment on the side where you have your shadow and then pull it out. I'll show you how to do that. just now when we get to our with our pots. Okay, I'm not being too fussed about going over the line because I do want it to look a little bit abstract. Okay, so let's do the same for the next one. So just putting down the color. This bottom one. Okay, and then drag out the color with my brush. Just drag out that color. Okay. Now, I am going to add just a tiny bit of that warm sepia that I used for here. So I'm just making a very light mixture again of it because I didn't have any left. And then I'm just adding some of that into my door because I want to have a bit of a vintage look to it. Okay. So just wetting my brush, cleaning it a bit, and then softening that color again. Okay. Just makes it look a bit more interesting. It doesn't matter which color you use, but adding that brown, bit of a brown color, just a dark brown color, just a tiny bit of it, really adds to the effect. Okay. So I'm going to show you how to get this effect on your pots, but using paint. Okay. So I'm going to use my smallest brush now. And I want to do, so this is Daniel Smith's Aussie Red Gold. This is the color I'm going to use for it. And I'm putting the color down on the side where my shadow is. So on this, I have a lot too much color here. On the right hand side of my pot, I'm putting down lots of color. Okay. And because it's a round pot, your highlight is in the middle of your pot. So I'm putting a tiny bit on this side also. And then get some from the bottom. And then I'm going to wet my brush, well, clean my brush first on my cloth, wet my brush, and then I'm just taking a clean brush and water, and I am going over this pot. Okay. I'm dragging that color out only with water and a clean brush. Okay. I'm going to do the same on this side, same color. So put it down your color on the side where your shadow is. Okay. Putting it on the bottom also. And then a thin line on this side. And then just getting water, cleaning my brush, just getting water and dragging this color out. So going over it. And you have to do this before your paint dries. So you want to wet it before your paint dries, because then it's just a bit quicker, more effective to do it. And you won't have lines. Hey, there we go. How good is that? Okay, now I'd like to add just a tiny bit of brown to this color. Again, just to give it a bit more of a vintage look. So especially here at the bottom, just gonna add some brown in my brush. And just with water, I'll drag that color out just a tiny bit. Like so. Okay. And on this side. So I am now moving on to the rest of my door. First, I'm going in with the darker color again, just here where my shadow is. And I'll fix that line up with a smaller brush later. Okay. Here as well. And then I'm going to use the cobalt blue stick and do some lines next to it. I want a little bit of that the dry brush effect almost to come through. So I'm just going everywhere, and then so if you are using normal paint, just directly, don't do wet on wet. You can just paint wet on dry. Using my small brush, going in, fixing the line here on the side. Okay. These number 2 Princeton brushes. I use this brush for almost everything. I love it so much. It's just the best brush. Like, I have the bigger one, I think the number 3, which is good too, but this one, the number 2, it's from the Princeton Heritage range, is my absolute favorite. It's just so good with details, with anything. I'm just going over with water, and I'm also going to add some brown soon. A doorknob over there, and I've put in a shadow for it already. Just going over with some paint, some water. How good are these colors for if you're painting the ocean? Oh, I love that. Okay, and again, I'm going to add some brown here at the bottom, on the sides, just putting in some lines over here and there. And then I get water and I soften those lines. You want to add some of it, especially here at the bottom, because that's where door normally gets dirty from rain, or maybe the sun damages it. So just in between, I'm just getting more water, cleaning my brush. Okay, that looks good. Okay, so while that dries, we can move on to our stays over here. So the stays, I'm just doing brown again. Same brown we've been using all this time, but now I'm making a bit of a darker mixture. And I'm going to add a tiny bit of this Aussie red gold just to blend the colors a bit together, or bring them together in a way. I'm mixing a dark brown with my color of my pot. So if you're using like a terracotta color for your pot, they always look really nice too. Let's do the same. Let's start on our shadow side. Down lots of pigment. And then just use water. Bring this color out. I might use some brown directly from the palette. And use my mixture to bring it out some more. Okay, so I used some brown directly from the palette, and then I've used my mixture that I made from the brown and the Aussie red gold to bring the brown out further, and also to paint the rest of it. So you want the top of your step to be lighter than the rest of the step, and then you also want this left side of your step to be lighter, because that's where the sun is. So you want the bottom of each step and the right hand side of the step to be the darkest. So I'm adding Just more color to that. Okay, and same with your second step. Try to actually not touch your first step so that the colors don't bleed together. Okay. So I'm leaving a slight line in between my two steps even to make sure they don't become just one mushy mess and bleed together without any detail in them. And then I'm adding some more color to the bottom. Now while I have this brown, I can also do just a line. So a technique that I learned to do a nice straight line, don't move your hand, or your fingers at least, move your whole hand down. So keep your hand steady and then move your whole hand down. Okay, and then on this side I'm doing the Bougainvillea one. I'm just doing squiggly lines going up and also crossing one another. Can make it go up like that. Okay. So now I'm doing also a lighter mixture of this brown, same color. Just making a light mixture, a bit lighter than what the steps are. And I'm going to paint all around my door frame. Careful not to touch your door because your door is still wet. So you can wait for your door to dry first before doing this step. And then here by the Bougainvillea at the top, just go around your shadow that you've got there. Because that shadow is going over your door frame. How good is that? It's really starting to take shape. So let's do our tree. For the tree, I'm going to get my lightest yellow that I've got, like a lemon yellow. And I'm going to start with it on the left-hand side of my tree because that's the side that the sun will be on, and the opposite side will be my shadow side. So I'm going to start with a light yellow and just put it here on the side where I imagine the sun will catch it first. So I'm doing a bit of a round shape, shaping up my tree. And this is why your background really shouldn't be too dark, because then you also won't be able to get a nice effect with your tree. Now I'm taking like a mid-size green, and I'm just using the green that I had here in my palette. And I'm putting this mainly in the middle of the tree and also blending it into the yellow. And now I'm looking for the darkest green that I have after this, and I'm going to put that on my opposite side because that will be my shadow. So opposite side to the yellow, I'll put a dark green forming my shadow. And I'm just dabbing it on, um, blending all the colors together and just giving it this really nice effect. I'm adding some more yellow here at the top. And some darker areas here at the bottom. For the number plate, I'm just doing a very neat line with black all around. Very thin line with my thinnest brush. And you can put absolutely any number on there that you would like to. I'm doing it with my thin brush and black paint, but you can also use a Sharpie or a pen if you don't have a steady hand. For the ground, I really want that dry brush effect to come out. So what I've done is I've put paint on my brush, and I'm using that same brown that we used before. And I'm just going um over the bottom area, but I'm letting the brush run out of paint because that will naturally help it to get a bit of texture onto it. And then I'm just adding in some of that dark brown directly and doing the same thing, just going over with the brush until the brush is basically dry and leaving some white spaces in between. Okay, so it feels a bit empty up here. My green has completely gone too light. So I'm adding some new leaves up here. Just underneath the pink. And I'm not doing it in a straight line. I'm dabbing my brush. I'm turning my brush in different directions. I'm keeping the brush a bit flat. Um, and I'm just going over that green that I had before, all the way up here to the side. Now I'm going to add my shadows again, but this time we're not painting wet on wet, we're painting wet on dry. So I'm making a mixture of the Moonglow. You can use your dark blue color that you've got, the same that you used before. And I'm putting in my shadows again, but this time with my small brush next to my pots. And this time I'm making sure that I'm doing a nice shadow, you know, a bit of fine lines. So next to this pot on the right hand side. I'm doing a shadow underneath my pots as well. And this says, at the bottom of each step. For my tree, I'm putting a shadow here on the right hand side, and then also for the branch. Same on the left, just following that branch up, putting a shadow next to it. I'm adding more shadows for my leaves that I've got, and you can make this one a bit punchy. Add some more color, add pigment, and make a nice shadow again. This time you want to follow the shape of your flowers and your leaves that you've got. And same as before, move your brush in different directions. You don't want a straight line. You want to dab it on. Look how these shadows are just making everything pop. It's just making everything stand out better, and it's really adding some nice final touches to your painting. I'm adding a shadow here for my number, for my house number. And then a shadow next to my door frame again. I'm adding some shadows here by my stairs. I might do some highlights on my door with a gel pen or a white pencil just now. And then I'll do my doorknob with the Aussie red gold. So the same color that I used for the pots. This is a Daniel Smith Aussie red gold. Okay, so let me get my pencil, white pencil, and just add some highlights. So on the opposite side of my shadows, I'm just putting a highlight. And this pencil is really nice. It really helps to frame your work. A gel pen is also good, but sometimes the gel pen, it's good for like grass and things, but I like the texture of the pencil um, because it's a bit, thicker and not as potent as a gel pen. Let's round this off with a couple of bricks. So I'm using that same brown mixture as before, the one that we used all over, and I'm just looking where I have some space. So just here on the side of the door, I'm going to do 3 or 5 bricks, an uneven number, which just makes it look better in art when you have an uneven number. So let's do a couple of bricks on the side here. I'm doing a few at the top. I'll do 3 on this left side, just to fill in that space a little bit. Now I'm letting this dry so that I can do some highlights and some shadows on the bricks also. I'm giving my doorknob a bit of a highlight on the left, and then giving each one of the bricks a bit of a highlight at the top, blending it in with my finger, and then I'll also do a shadow for each one of the bricks. Okay, now my salt is dry, so I'm going to remove it. It didn't really make the big effect that I wanted. I don't know if it's with the rough paper, but I've done this painting so many times now, and every time it comes out differently. Some days the salt is really just makes the perfect effect, and sometimes it feels like it needs more oomph, like today, but it's still unique. If you look closely, it still has some effect, and it really looks beautiful. So I'm just going to leave it as is. I'm not going to add anything to this. Because yeah, I'm too scared I mess it up now. And I just think it's beautiful as it is, so I'm gonna leave it. But yeah, so yours might come out differently. Your salt might make a bigger effect. It depends how much water, how much salt, how much paint. So all of those things make a difference in what your final painting looks like. I'm just signing mine here in the corner on the shadow of my pot. I'm putting my signature right there. And yes, that's it. That's the full painting.